Ohio, Choshido, it's your Strawberry Fairy Tsukiju, and I'm coming to you guys with another video. And I'm going to be reviewing a recent development by a YouTuber goes by the name of Kadisha Lynn. So I'm going to be reacting to this video, and it's titled David Police Report Filed by Young Girl Who Was with at Same Time as Celeste. So let's get into it.
Finally, we are finally hearing a little bit more information about Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and I feel like finally, because it's been radio silent with no new information coming out for a while now. Steve Fisher, the private investigator who has been looking into what happened to Celeste Rivas Hernandez, went on Ashley Banfield, and we are going to go over some important new information that he has released in this interview. We're now hearing that a witness came forward, and there is a possible new timeline of when Celeste was last seen. We're also going to talk about another child coming forward with evidence to law enforcement, and it seems like they're not going to do anything. We are also now finding out where David's Tesla currently is at. And we're also going to talk about some of the things police have done that seems like it's been a major fail. Steve Fisher did come out and confirm that the DA wanted him to stop talking about Celeste Rivas Hernandez to the media. Steve Fisher also gave us new information about the two children that came forward to him and gave him information about alleged relationships between them and David. He said one of them gave him evidence, tons of photos that show that they were romantically involved with one another. He said this one in particular, on the same day, on February 15th, David was seeing this girl at his home taking pictures in a mirror, which I really wonder if it is this photo right here, while he was also going to allegedly meet with Celeste at another spot. So he was going back and forth between Celeste and this girl, I'm assuming this girl, at his LA home. He said that this child actually went to law enforcement and gave them everything that she had, photos, text messages, and her own statement saying that she was in a relationship with David in a romantic way. Steve Fisher believes nothing is going to happen with this because they have never brought any charges against David for this, and they haven't even gave this girl a follow-up interview to collect information or ask her questions. And Steve Fisher brings up information from a new witness that came to him that is close to Celeste's family, giving a new date range of when they allegedly last saw Celeste. He talked about the information that he had before this, believing that this could have happened to Celeste anywhere between January, the last photo that he saw of Celeste, into spring, because of what the neighbors also said that they smell at the end of February. But now this new witness coming forward, he said that he does have faith in this witness, so he is questioning it and saying this could be a possibility. This new witness told Steve Fisher that Celeste was last seen on April 20th, and then it went radio silent, meaning they never heard from her, they never saw her again after this date, which could be really relevant to why we hear law enforcement saying a spring timeline, because April 20th would be spring. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in here the April breakdown that I did of where David was certain times in April. Sure, where David is, we can assume that he's in LA since he was in LA before, but he wouldn't be spotted again in LA until April 4th. David was in another live stream that showed him in his home in LA. Then we can assume for this time that David was possibly in LA, but there are no public sightings or events or anything, and then he wouldn't be seen again until April 11th. And this is where David would perform at Coachella for weekend 1. And then there's nothing else all the way until the next weekend, where we would see David again at Coachella weekend 2. And then again, we can assume he's in LA, but we are not sure because we have no public events or anything after the 18th of April. And David wouldn't be seen again until April 25th, and he is in New York City for Band Labs. He's also there on April 26th, and then by April 27th, David is in Texas. And I do want to say this is around the time that we would see multiple performances from David, literally crying when performing Afterlife, which is something that people have been talking about for quite a while now. And I assume he probably stayed in Texas till the 28th, because then on April 29th, He's then in Philadelphia doing an interview. Another huge thing that Steve Fisher said is the neighbors that are close to David had a very good security camera, and it was pointed right at the front door of the LA home. Steve Fisher said detectives did go to that house, and these neighbors gave him the video footage of them coming to the house and asked them for their video footage. And they said, yeah, sure, of course, we'll have our IT guy run through it and get the video footage for you. But law enforcement didn't give them dates, so they reached back out like, hey, we need dates on what you are looking for. Like, what time frame do you need us to look through the cameras? Steve Fisher said the neighbors even gave the police a warning, like, hey, we need to know these dates soon because we have a upgrade coming very shortly, and it is going to wipe the cameras when it upgrades. And the neighbors told Steve Fisher that the detectives never followed up, never said anything. So unfortunately, all of that camera footage was erased when that new upgrade happened because police never stayed on it. Another thing that Steve Fisher talks about is the Tesla. He said that he actually recently just ran into the Tesla being at a body shop. He talked about how police only had it for 2 days and went back to the tow yard, and it sat there for months. Right before it was scheduled to be auctioned off, somebody with power of attorney came and got it and transferred it from David's name into their name. And then obviously took it to this body shop where it seems like it's still sitting right now today. Another thing that Steve Fisher talked about was Celeste's family, how they've never spoke up, how they've never said anything. And he said he really wished that they would. He said this case, because of the way law enforcement is handling it, really needs pushed on and shoved. That way it puts pressure on it. Steve Fisher said that he believes maybe the only reason why the parents and the family of Celeste aren't speaking up and really pushing on anything or doing anything publicly is the fact that maybe they're scared that they might get in some type of trouble. Steve Fisher did say that he knows that Celeste truly wasn't a missing person because now we know that she kept going back and forth, and he believes that her family knew exactly where she was at. And one of the examples that he gave, he said that some of Celeste's siblings joined them on fun events. Talked about his frustration with police at a lack of transparency over everything that they have done so far, and he basically feels like this case is stalled. He wants to know questions like, why hasn't there been media coverage, a press release asking for information if that is what they need, asking people to come forward, really shining a light on this case. He also worries about the grand jury. He said in California, a grand jury is only impaneled for 30 days. And we know right now there is a huge potential that it is stalled because of David's family appealing the decision that they had to go testify to this grand jury. And we currently do not know the status of that appeal because David's family were successful at sealing the records for that. He said even if it is stalled, it makes it difficult because even if they come back and they do have to testify to a grand jury, it would be a whole new grand jury. It would be a lot easier if it was the same grand jury receiving all of the information at once. Steve Fisher also gave his thoughts on Neo after TMZ reported that they saw Neo at the grand jury and he was only there for about 40 minutes. He said that he believed originally when Neo went to that proceeding that he probably pleaded the fifth because there was no way that he could give a grand jury proceeding in 40 minutes. In my opinion, this is something that I totally agree with. And then he feels like after the fact that they saw Neo pleading the fifth to this grand jury, this is kind of when they applied pressure, and he thinks that there is a huge possibility. After that, he made a deal to give them whatever information that he may have. And this could possibly explain one way why we saw him taking to the internet very ignorantly, talking about how he was legally fine and he had receipts. And I do think that this is a huge possibility. I have said for a while now that I think that this is probably what happened. I'm really glad that Steve Fisher has stayed on this case and we are still getting a little bit of new information because like Steve Fisher said, it is important to keep Celeste's story alive. The more people talk about it, the more pressure is put on law enforcement to give us something, whether it's reports in the media, a press conference, or trying to push to a resolution. Right now, it has been so long and we're not seeing anything and we're really not hearing much. But y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.
But like we said,
Y'all, what happened to this girl, you guys? Who did this to Celeste? Justice for Celeste.